We can't be the only ones asking this. Where's The Rock right now in WWE? He showed up for John Cena's big heel turn at Elimination Chamber back in Toronto. I was there. It was a huge deal. Everyone was walking out of the stadium asking, when is The Rock gonna show up next? And he's been gone from WWE television ever since, even WrestleMania. This is likely due to his demanding schedule as one of the biggest stars in the movie business with Hollywood, where he's been doing that for a long time after breaking into the scene with his role in 2002's The Scorpion King while still being a major player for the WWE. WWE, knowing there was a buck or two to be made with that relationship between him and big movies, decided to incorporate this into their programming when The Rock returned to Monday Night Raw in 2003 in one of the most heavily satirical character shifts in wrestling history. He completely made fun of himself. The Rock became Hollywood Rock. Hey, it worked for Hulk Hogan, right? Also, in retrospect, you might say that this move was responsible for the final boss incarnation that we know in recent years with The Rock. Yeah, it has a whole lot of Hollywood elements to it. You're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling. Hit the like button. Come on, you smell what we're cooking? You're already here. Yeah. How do you feel about Hollywood Rock? Do you think it was the right move for The Rock to make that character change? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Kevin Kellum. Subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more videos just like this. But before you go, click that little bell icon. You get notifications when we drop our latest videos and help us in our march to 200,000 subscribers. If you smell you know the rest. Back to it. In early 2003, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was back on WWE television. But he wasn't the great one. He wasn't the people's champion that they fell in love with from the late 90s into the early 2000s. He was clad in sunglasses, leather vests, and seemed to be looking more down on the fans. Maybe the earliest version of The Rock, the one that prompted him to get some attitude. But they were booing him now, maybe because they felt he was abandoning them and abandoning pro wrestling and WWE in general for bigger and better things beyond the wrestling bubble. It was still very much a wrestling bubble at the time. He began mocking the fans, accusing them of turning their backs on him. It was clear he was going to be the bad guy here from the get-go, and a boastful, always boastful one at that. Rock took every opportunity to draw the attention of his emerging film career as the prominent reason for why he had to do this. That holier-than-thou approach always works for great heels who can nail it. And The Rock would cut vicious promos on the crowd each week, even getting himself a new updated version of his theme song. Oh yeah, with all those different elements. Cooking. Love that part, yeah. Some of The Rock's promos at the time were amongst the best he's ever done, including those infamous Rock concerts, where he would bring an acoustic guitar into the ring and attempt to play it while singing to the crowd about how awful and disgusting they were. It was wildly entertaining, some of the best musical segments ever in wrestling history, and was really inspiring maybe the Elias gimmick that we would see years later. Wow, thank you, Hollywood Rock. We didn't know you were related to that, but it makes sense. The Rock took shots at every city, sport team, and other WWE performers related to where he was performing that night, and segments that were so memorable that he briefly revived them in the early 2010s, notably dropping them on John Cena and even Vicky Guerrero. But in 2003, The Rock had his sights set on some different targets. First up, another Hollywood figure, the Hulkster, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, because who better? In 2002, a babyface Rock took on a then heelish Hulk Hogan, who was turned into the red and yellow Hulkster once again in Toronto in front of that huge crowd in an instant classic, maybe one of the best matches of both men's careers. And it really kind of had a passing of the torch moment. But the next year, things changed since Rock was doing the movies and the sentiment around him was a little bit different. Respected, but now booed as a wrestling villain. So the roles were fully reversed when they met at No Way Out 2003. Hogan was about to put The Rock away, but Mr. McMahon, who was looking to build his WrestleMania 19 feud with the Hulkster, got himself involved. The lights went out as Hogan made the cover, and when he came back on, referee Sylvain Grenier was out cold, allowing the dastardly McMahon to distract the Hulkster while the now not-so-unconscious Sylvain Grenier passed a chair to Rocky. After a rock bottom, Hollywood Rock had defeated Hollywood Hogan for the second time. Back-to-back wins over Hulk Hogan is pretty huge, given his star power and tendency to occasionally pull the "it doesn't work for me, brother" line to maybe not have that be the route they're gonna go. But there was no revisiting this one. There was no third time for Hulk versus The Rock. They had business separate from each other, and Hogan had to go after McMahon, and Rocky was about to settle the score with someone else, someone who had 2 wins over him. The Rock had generational wars with WrestleMania fellow main eventer Stone Cold Steve Austin. Twice they shared the stage on Mania. Yeah, and even battled for the Intercontinental Championship in the late 90s. Yeah, those main events at WrestleMania, Stone Cold always got the W in them. In one of the most well-loved and controversial wrestling matches in history, one of WrestleMania's greatest main events, Austin would turn heel and join McMahon. Now, years later at WrestleMania 19, things were different. It was an underrated match on a very underrated Mania, maybe the best of their 3 matches. And this was the send-off that we would see for Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was dealing with some very serious injuries at the time. This would be the last official match we would see of Stone Cold Steve Austin until almost 20 years later when he took on Kevin Owens to close out WrestleMania 38 in his home state of Texas. Hollywood Rock even took a loss from the Hurricane in the build to WrestleMania 19 that year in Seattle. A huge upset win for the future Gregory Helms, even today when you look back at it. Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 19 is a criminally underrated match. It has a clean war to settle a score vibe with their larger-than-life personalities amplified and top-level, well-paced big match wrestling. It has a clean finish with The Rock getting a win finally over Austin, them sharing a private emotional moment you can appreciate for them together as generational performers. And in retrospect, it maybe doesn't get its due because it's on the back end of the soaring days of the Attitude Era and those early stages of WWE going into the Ruthless Aggression days. That almost brings us to the end, though, of Hollywood Rock, but not before a surprise debut from a young upstart called Bill Goldberg. Yeah, Goldberg, who finally joined the WWE ranks after becoming the big star made over in WCW. Goldberg was not a part of the first wave of WCW talent to be acquired by WWE with the failed invasion angle. No, his contract was with Turner Broadcasting, so it delayed his arrival. Now he was set to have a massive match. Right out of the gate, Goldberg made his debut during one of Hollywood Rock's promos and speared him into another dimension. It is one of the biggest spears of his career, and this set up a dream match between The Rock and Goldberg at Backlash 2003 right after WrestleMania 19 and that huge match Rock had with Austin. The first pay-per-view for Goldberg in his year-long contract, it was a feud on the level he deserved right out of the gate. We know they did do that blonde wig come later angle where they put a blonde wig on Goldberg that doesn't make him seem very Goldberg-y. But the actual match may not have been the most enriching thing from a technical standpoint, but it doesn't really matter. You get Goldberg in the ring, it's all about the personality and the savagery, and Rock is going to sell that with his over-the-top nature. These two were some of the biggest names at the time, and they fronted 2 big companies during wrestling's most prosperous time. The match wouldn't look out of place on a WrestleMania card, though, if it played out that way, or even as a main event on another pay-per-view. The 2 men kept a slow pace, with The Rock spending the early goings outside of the ring, taunting Goldberg to avoid any actual confrontation with him. This was a lot of stopping and starting, and the crowd chanting a lot of pausing in between lockups, but, you know, heel's gonna do heel stuff. Goldberg overpowered The Rock, who sold his fear like he was fighting a grizzly bear, even getting hit with his own finishing move, the Rock Bottom. The Rock would sleaze his way into a comeback with a low blow, hit a rock bottom of his own, and then dance his way into a people's elbow. But ultimately, Goldberg won the match with his very trusty spear and his top body come down combination, the jackhammer, putting an end to Hollywood Rock seemingly for good. An effective and good short heel run for The Rock as he quietly dipped out of WWE for the brighter lights of Hollywood. He would go on to star in some of the most profitable and high-profile movies of the next 2 decades, and some ones that weren't as good, but come on, he was in Fast and the Furious, a certified banger at the box office. the DC Extended Universe, the Jumanji remakes, and some standalone action films like San Andreas. He wrestled 3 huge matches before he left against 3 of the biggest names in the industry other than him, and rematched 2 legends, getting significant wins over both of them, including Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Like we said, that is still the best of the Austin Rock matches. He even convincingly put over Goldberg on the way out, who WWE initially had high hopes for, and him doing that was doing right by the business in his absence, as we mentioned. Just like that, though, it seemed like Hollywood Rock was dead, at least for the WWE he was. You could argue that this laid the foundation for what The Rock would become in future appearances and storylines with the company, which would be further and further apart just due to his demanding schedule as a movie star. He was becoming less The Rock, a wrestler, and more Dwayne Johnson, an actor you know that was a wrestler at one point. Even as a good guy, there was still some sense of Hollywood superiority about him. Oh, he's bigger than this. Come and do some charitable work for WWE. It wasn't that case, and he was flaunting it in a way that he initially had in 2003, and it was lingering there, even if he didn't want it to. Fans may have implied that it was there. Shades of his 2003 character could even be seen in later gimmicks that WWE created for other talents, like The Miz with his A-lister run, maybe even Batista during his brief run in return from Hollywood. Actually, you know what? When you think about it, Hollywood Batista is kind of Hollywood Rock, just without all the talking and smiling and just yelling about, "Give me what I want!" It's also clearly possible that The Rock inspired the likes of Batista and John Cena to seek their own opportunities in entertainment outside of WWE, while occasionally coming back for the one-off big match or program and storyline. This was as much as we got out of The Rock for quite a while. Yeah, he did do that big angle over years with Cena at WrestleMania, but the most significant thing that he has ever done in wrestling is something outside of the ring. It is when he became a part of the corporate structure of WWE under the TKO Board of Directors in 2024, the new ownership of the company. Shortly after, he returned to television, vests and all, and presented a fully evolved version of what he threatened us with in 2003. This was the final boss. Hollywood Rock, but with a corporate influence, bringing levels of mainstream intrigue and appeal to him while also balancing what is he going to do next, old school attitude that really pushed the line of what WWE superstars can say that we remember from the Attitude Era, really spinning the plates from multiple different parts of the audience. This was a very entertaining incarnation of The Rock. It struck that chord of wrestling is cool again, and in fairness, it never wasn't cool, but maybe there were more people talking to you about The Rock being back in WWE. The final boss was the ideal big baddie for WWE to utilize, and the entire all-encompassing Bloodline storyline, Cody trying to finish his story, and the main event of WrestleMania 40 feeling like a big Avengers Endgame scenario for WWE's all-star roster. Though he won the main event tag team match on night 1 of WrestleMania that year in Philadelphia, he was thwarted once again by Cody Rhodes and the Good Guys, and Cody would finish his story. Yes, a triumphant ending to WrestleMania Night 2, maybe one of the best endings ever in WrestleMania history. He did get to whip Cody with a belt and call him a shithead along the way. I was at the night in Chicago where that happened with the rain falling outside of the Allstate Arena. It was pretty cool. He also got a special People's Championship custom belt from Muhammad Ali's family at the WWE Hall of Fame. It was a real mixed bag of emotions there. Since then, he has been absent due to, his Hollywood commitments, where he's also a major movie producer, not just a star in films. But we suppose it's fitting that the character has these elements. He was a key element in John Cena's heel turn and the assault on Cody Rhodes there in a wild, chaotic scene in Canada at Elimination Chamber, and popular rapper Travis Scott was there too, for reasons we still don't understand exactly. And there were some cryptic messages about Cody's soul along the way, but it's all very vague. Hollywood Rock was a character that promised what The Rock could become as a villain, and what he did along the way actually is a very good version of that, not an evil over-the-top wrestling version of that, a prototype of the biggest villain in professional wrestling today, while being one of the biggest draws in Hollywood, even if he's a tooth fairy in the past. It's okay. Moana's cooler than Tooth Fairy, right? What do you think? What's your favorite Rock movie, by the way? Let us know in the comments if you haven't done that already. We can forgive all the weird things that may or may not have happened with The Rock along the way, but we'd love to see him back involved in a big angle. Yeah, Hollywood rockin', final bossin', doing something wild, having a very big match that could truly wrap up his in-ring career. Maybe that's another video we can make down the line. Is Hollywood Rock the best version of The Rock? Did he influence the final boss? Or are we reaching here? Let us know down in that comment section. Don't forget to like, just click the thumb thing. It's right there. Do it, come on. There you go. There, you raised our eyebrow. Thank you. And share the video with your wrestling buddies. Subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more deep dive videos just like this. You can enable those notifications on so you know when we drop videos first as well. You'll be watching Sportskeeda in the future, and we appreciate that. Yeah, we know you'll be back.